Hello, my beautiful tribe. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Joy the Enchantress, and I'm here to help you on your awakening journey. I'm one opinion out of many. Please take or leave it. And this is going to be a podcast episode for Joy Renee Uncensored, MiVidaLoca, and MiVidaLoca is my life story. I'll be discussing topics and scenarios that might be triggering, and I encourage you just to simply take what resonates and leave the rest. It's my intention to just share my experience as it happened to help anyone that can relate to it, and also just to share my story because I've been drawn to share my story. Today is a no power day. You might hear the helicopter. They're working on our power lines here today, so I don't have any power. So I'm going to try to get this episode out fairly quickly. I live in California where it's legal to smoke too, so hopefully my smoking doesn't bother you. I decided to quit all pharmaceuticals and do the holistic approach. That's my personal experience. I do still see a doctor, so please take it or leave it. Any future facing if I'm telling the future, I'm trying to tell you a timeline that's possible. There is no, what am I trying to say? I can't even talk. Literally have so much on my mind. So I'm just skip all that, okay? Look, I'm here to tell my story. And today I'm going to talk about Joe. And the reason I'm going to talk about Joe is because, he recently had a stroke, and he could really use some encouragement. And I'm not able to speak on my social media right now. I lost both my social medias as well as my Instagram and Threads account. I wasn't even asked to verify myself in any way, so I still have these appeals pending. But who are they pending? Who am I appealing to though? Like, who are they pending for? I don't really think I'm gonna be able to talk to anybody. If you've lost your account on Facebook due to bullshit, that's me. All right. So I'm kind of gonna wing it a little bit because I don't really have anything written down. But I'm gonna start off when I met Joe, when I met his brother Peter. Peter, and just kind of go from there. I ran into Joe again um, in November 4th or 5th, actually. I think it was November 5th. I actually looked and got messages from Joe. I might even read them later because it's pretty cool. But I've been sharing my story on this podcast. So anyways, I was like 19 years old, all right, and I was, I had just been, I'll do a little bit of a backup here. So leading up to how I met Joe in the motels at La Quinta, actually in Phoenix, right? Um, I was I was in a abusive relationship. I was with a person that literally beat the crap out of me and hit me. Um, and I was like 18, 19 years old. And I didn't have anybody to stick up for me. Even my parents didn't stick up for me. It was kind of weird dynamic that I had to deal with, but I've been dealing with it. So, I was in a not sober living. I was in a battered women's shelter in Phoenix, and I ended up breaking curfew. And if you break curfew and you're not at your job or something legitimate, you get kicked out. Like, there's no chances, zero chances, because of the type of women that are there and the reason they are there. Okay, they're there to be protected, and so they can't have any loose cannons running around doing whatever they want. And so I ended up getting kicked out with one of the roommate's daughters, and her and I went and run amok. We ended up living in the motels. I was a streetwalker at the time. I was, and Joe, I don't know if Joe really knew all of that, but it doesn't matter because he literally loved me unconditionally. Um, and so I met Joe living in the motels. And I asked him for a lighter, and he's like, "Well, my lighter comes with me." And so I was like, "Well, let's go." And it was like that. We were inseparable. The next day, he invited me to go to the carnival because that's what him and Peter were doing. Was they were carnies, and it was the fair in Phoenix. So they were at the fairgrounds there, and so I went over and he got me, Joe got me a Yosemite Sam, the little dude with the mustache and the guns and stuff, cartoon guns. So, sorry, my power is off. I just got a text that it might be back on at 2:30, so that's great. It's 10:30 now. So, anyways, I met him and him and Peta were carnies, and we hit it off, and we were kind of inseparable. It was us three, actually, the trio, and I very quickly fell in love with Joe. Just his just who he is. Like, if you've ever met Joe, you just know he's like full of life and ecstatic and funny and charismatic and adorable. All right. So I fell in love with him probably before we even left. But anyways, so we had some crazy times. At the time we were using meth and whatever else, alcohol and stuff. He did drink a lot. His drinking was really uncomfortable to me, though. Always had been. His drinking just really bothered me. I was never really much of a drinker. I was more into like doing, meth. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. Hang on. Anyways, so I ended up getting kicked out of the sober living. We were living in the motels. I met Joe, and I was still doing what I needed to do to make a living. Okay, which is one of the oldest professions on this planet. I ended up going with, I can't remember exactly what happened, but I ended up going with, I had a falling out with my roommate. And because her and her brother and them were like pimps, and so I got to learn like what like out of pocket was, and it was a really weird time in my life. All right. I didn't even talk about it much. In fact, I never talked about this stuff outside of Alcoholics Anonymous, um, because I didn't want my parents to know. But my parents are passed away, so I don't have to hide anything. So I let it all hang out now. But he, Joe and I we hit it off, and we were with PETA. And us three like hit the road. Like, we went to go get my stuff from the roommate, and she ended up keeping all, like, we had two giant suitcases. She kept them both. So I basically had the clothes on my back, my Yosemite Sam, and my leather jacket, and I had a dress and some sandals. Um, And that was pretty much it. I didn't have anything else. She took everything I had, period. I had maybe a Stater Brothers bag worth of clothes, maybe, if that. So, anyways, I got in the car. I mean, who am I? Like, I trust these guys, right? I trust these random dudes. They are older than me, and I just trust them, like, blindly. I, like, get in the car with these people. And I remember at the time, I don't remember, like, 100%. We were in a pickup at the time, and they were headed towards, the carnival was headed towards Southern California. And I don't know where in Southern California. Maybe they were coming to San Bernardino. I'm not sure. But they ended up bringing me home because they were going the same direction my parents lived. And so I was like, well, yeah, let me go home. I want to go home back to my mom and dad's and see what's up and take it from there. So they ended up driving me to Riverside. And we ended up in Riverside at, like, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning. And we just kind of hung out. And then they dropped me off at my mom's house. And I was there all day. They were doing whatever it was they needed to do, and they decided that they were going to quit the carnival and they were going to go home, I guess, back to Mass. And so I get in the car with these guys to go back to Mass. I don't know them at all. I don't know them from Adam. But for some reason, I trusted them and they trusted me. It was really, I don't know, it was cool. So I went with them. We got all the way to Las Vegas and we get out, and of course they want to go play, so we go play, and they ended up going in, I believe it was a Best Western, and we went in the Best Western. They were drinking, and they ended up breaking one of the mirrors that's like a full wall mirror. And because they were fighting, they got in a fight and they broke this mirror, so they got arrested. And I didn't even know what to do. So Joe reminded me. I ended up getting his mom's number and the keys to the car, and I had $1, and that's pretty much all I fucking had. They went to jail, and I had nowhere to go, and so I had to, like, figure it out. I had to be like, okay, God, I'm in the middle of Las Vegas. I don't fucking know anybody. I don't have money. I literally have like $1, or I don't know if it was $1 or $5, but it was literally freaking nothing. And so on the way out, PETA told me to park the car at the Sahara. So I went in, I parked the car at the Sahara. I left the car there. I made sure everything was fine. I locked it up. I had the keys. And then I went to the nearest, like, it was like a bar or whatever. And I got a soda. And I sat down. And I must have looked really sad, you know, because this gentleman asked me if I was okay, what was going on, and I told him what happened. I told him that they broke the mirror, they're in jail, I have nowhere to go, I parked the car, I have $1, I just spent it on the soda, and so basically I had a place to stay. I had a place to stay. And of course, the people that I were staying with did meth. And so I was over here with meth addicts, and I fit right in, but that's God uses people. God uses people. It doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter your circumstances. God can use you. God uses you all the time, and you probably don't even know it. So I went back to this apartment, and not one of them tried to hit on me. Not one of them tried to make advances towards me. They just let me crash there and wait and use their phone. I had to call Joe's mom, to let her know that was going on so that they could call Joe's mom while they were in jail. And we were trying to, like, I don't know what's the word, like, we were trying to hook up. Like, we were trying to like, what is it? Coordinate. Thank you. Coordinate so that with his mom, so that I knew when their court date was, and I knew where when they were getting out, and I could meet up with them so they could get the car back. And um, I did that. Now later here recently, Joe was like, he couldn't even believe I stayed. Like they couldn't even believe I didn't take the keys in the car and just take off. Like they are like, why didn't you just take off? I'm like, that's not the kind of person I am. That's not who I am. Um, yeah, I felt like I had, guess I made a commitment, and I was like, I'm not just gonna fucking leave them there, you know. So that happened. And we get back in the car, right, after being there, and it was literally where I was staying. Is the apartment I was staying at was across from the Stratosphere, and so we went to the Stratosphere and got to experience that. I got to go experience the laser light show when it was like brand new. And I remember just feeling so empty. I felt so empty. But I feel like every man that I walked by looked at me. Like they looked at me like they saw something in me. And maybe even the women too. I just didn't, maybe I just didn't recognize that the women were looking at me too. Um, But I was just so sad, and I'm just like, why are you looking at me? I'm so empty. You know, I was in a lot of pain, and I had a lot of trauma. I had just been abused and beaten and left for dead. My best friend had to like get me out of this abusive relationship with nothing, and she helped me get to the Sojourner Center in Phoenix, and I mean, I was a wreck, and I was still a wreck, and I wasn't done running. I wasn't done with my addiction yet. I was still running from a lot of pain. I was still dealing with, a lot of pain, and I didn't know that I had, PTSD. I didn't know I had BPD, borderline personality disorder. You know, I didn't know I had those issues, so I was literally self medicating and just doing the very best that I could, you know? And anyways, so we get them out. They get out, and I'm like, I don't remember if they got out together or if Joe got out, and I think Joe got out first, and then PETA, and then we went and got out, and then we went and got the car, and we hung out at the motel. We hung out at the apartment where I had been staying with those people, just kind of to pay our respects and thank them for helping me out, and taking care of me and making sure I wasn't, stolen, beaten, raped, and whatnot. So me and Joe, we were playing around, and I don't know how it went about. I really need his input, but we ended up going with this gentleman that was an ice cream man. An ice cream man. And it's so weird because I he told me I was safe and that I could stay there and sleep and he wouldn't bother me, but he tried to get in bed with me while I was sleeping, and so I told Joe that. I was like, dude, tried to get in bed with me right now. And so I went and stayed by Joe. I didn't want anybody to touch me because I was at that time I was in a relationship with Joe, you know, and he ended up leaving us there by ourselves because I think he had to go to work or something. But we ended up finding like this wad of cash, like this big wad of cash. Like he moved these speakers apart and it just fell out. And he wakes me up and he's like, "Look at this money. We got this money." And it was like all dollars, like singles. But dude, it was ice cream man. So of course, what do you think? Um, so we ended up taking that and splitting. So we had a little bit of money, and that's kind of how we did it. We got in the car. We ended up getting Peter, and then we ended up going from there. I believe we went up to South Dakota to see my sister. And when we got to South Dakota, this is the part that Joe didn't remember. Joe didn't even remember meeting my sister, going to the mall there, hanging out. But my nephew was a baby. He was a brand new baby. So we went and saw him. I got to see everybody, and they asked me to stay, but I was like, no. So I got back in the car with Peter and Joe, and we continued east. We were trying to, like I said, they were going back to Mass, and I was like, let's go. Let's go. I was down. I just was down to go. I was down to get out of the house, get out of Riverside, get out of my hometown, go live my life. And I just, it's like I was living by faith only. There was nothing else. I had no fear. I wasn't afraid of running out of gas. I would just get the money. I wasn't afraid of not having food. I would just get food. It's kind of like Forrest Gump. If I was hungry, I ate. If I had to go, I went, and it was kind of like that. So, I think we got as far east as Toledo, Ohio, and Joe and I decided to get out of the car and let Peter continue to maps by himself. And from my understanding, what Joe told me was that the car made it. It was a Pontiac 3000. It was light blue. Um, and they don't even know how it made it. They don't even know how it made it across. But when Peter arrived at his destination, that car, it literally blew up. It just died and it never ran again. So I was like, that was pretty lucky for us. Wow. God was really looking out for us. And that is how God really looks out for you. Even when you're not really paying attention. But for me, it was just my testament. This is my testimony as to how God took care of me and my story with Joe. It's like, it was crazy. We ended up getting dropped off in the middle of frickin' nowhere. And he was distraught. I mean, obviously, we have our bags on our back, and that's it. We don't have any belongings, just the clothes on our back and a couple bags, backpack. And we ended up getting, like, okay, so this is the part that Joe reminded me, and this is the part that he used to tell people when he was a speaker in AA, because I was a speaker and he was a speaker in AA too. So he used to say this part that I always forgot. Um, we ended up getting dropped off in the middle of nowhere. I think we were in Indianapolis or Indiana or Illinois. I can't remember. Oh yeah, I missed the part where me and Peter and Joe ended up picking up a hitchhiker in Chicago. So I want to tell you that real fast. Like, we literally ended up picking up a hitchhiker in Chicago, and it was pouring down rain, and the car was on a tow truck, and we saw him there, and we pulled over, we got him in the car, and he ended up being an architect, so like a well-to-do architect. So he took us back to his apartment, which was magnificent. It was the tallest building in Chicago, and I remember the valet like having to park the cars into like sardines. Like, how do they get their cars in and out? Anyway, um, he was kind enough to let us come up. He bought us pizza. He let us shower, and we did that, and then we split. We split. That's what we did. That's how we did it. And then, like I said, we got out in Toledo, Ohio, and so we were coming back west, I guess. I'm not sure where to. yet, but we were coming back west, and him and I got out of this truck. We were in the middle of freaking nowhere. He was distraught. He was pissed off, and he was like, "Screw God, God's a joke," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "God's gonna show up. Just have faith." I kept telling him, "Have faith. God's gonna show up. Have faith. God's gonna show up." And he would just shine that. So what happened was he was like, "Fine, forget it. You try to get us a ride." And so I did. I went and I was like, I got us a ride. So I went and we took turns, and then I told him the next car is going to stop. The next car is going to stop. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right." And he just shined it. He thought I was joking. He thought God was a joke at that point. And the car stopped. Didn't really stop, but they went, and it was a small two-door Love, if you know what those little pickup trucks are. And he's like, "What are they going to do, So they turned around. They stopped, turned around, picked us up, and they said, I think Joe asked, "Why did you stop? Why did you pick us up?" And he's like, that person was like, "I have never picked up a hitchhiker. I've never stopped to pick up anything, but God told me to." And so I turned around and picked him up, and this person had this Bible on the dash. And it was one of many Bibles I saw on the dash, which is my part of the story, where every person that stopped, I believe, had some type of Bible in the car with them. They had either, the big Bible, or even just a little, the Testament. What is it? The Testaments? The New Testament Bible. Yeah. And that's how we got along. So, hang on one second. I'm going to pause and get a drink really fast. 1 second. Sorry about that. I take a breather for a second. Just lighting some sage. I love lighting sage. I burn sage all the time. We're having a short intermission. Intermission time. Get your hot dog and popcorn and pull up a seat. So I can't believe that car picked us up like that either. It was also mind blowing to myself. I was like, holy crap, I was kind of in disbelief myself. I was like just testing God, and I didn't really expect God to show up like that, and God showed up like that. God showed up like that. And I've been trying to do it ever since, because me and him were like, dude, just imagine if we did stuff like that then. Imagine what we can do right now consciously, and having had all this time of experience. We have like 30 years of experience more now. So anyways, we get picked up in this Love, and I can't remember how we got dropped off, but this person, I think it was the person. I'm not sure if it was. Joe would remember if it was the person that owned the Love truck that picked us up, that gave us this car. But we ended up getting picked up by someone who gave us a car. They gave us a car. It had just been sitting there, and they gave it to us for nothing. They were like, "Here, if it starts, it's yours," and it did. And we ended up driving it to, I think we made it as far as Mall of America. Because I was also a shoplifter, and that's how I used to take care of myself when I was out there and stuff. I paid my dues already, so I'm not really worried about it. But don't shoplift it, okay? Don't shoplift. So anyways, I saw the Mall of America. We're like, ooh, the Mall of America. Ooh, I'm gonna shoplift at the Mall of America. Ooh, yeah, they have the best security at the Mall of America. Duh. So don't do that. But the Mall of America is pretty awesome. There's a freaking Knott's Berry Farm in the middle of it, in case you're not aware. And I believe it was Bloomingdale's that got me. Um, and that's fine. I had to pay my dues, so I got arrested, and I end up in a jail cell, and they put me in black and white, like stripes, right? Just like the cartoons. It cracked me up. California's different. We get orange, right? Or blue. We actually get blue or orange in California. So to have the black and white stripes was kind of funny to me. They are working outside on my power if you're just tuning in. I hear the trucks, so we'll see. Oh, and it's 11 o'clock. That's good. It's 11. Time's going by pretty quick. So, anyways, I go to the Mall of America, get arrested like a dumbass. And Joe literally works his ass off the entire day trying to get $50 to bail me out. And he ended up getting me $50. And while I was in jail, they gave me Burger King. That was like my meal. Anyways, I got bailed out. Joe worked his ass off all day to get me bailed out. He was absolutely exhausted. He was sick from not eating. He had just hustled his entire day trying to come up with that for me, and he did it. So the first thing I did was I went over to a Denny's. Now, somewhere between getting arrested and Denny's, the car broke down. Okay, so the car didn't start. It didn't want to run. Um, Me personally, I believe it was the fuel filter was clogged. Just letting you know, because if you let it sit a long time, yeah, that's gonna happen. Anyway, so I go into Denny's, and you can do this if you're hurting, if you're homeless, if you're traveling through and you have no money. You can go to the police department to get help as well for a room. And you can generally go to establishments like Denny's or other restaurants. They have a reserve for meals that they can give out to you. Yeah, so we ended up getting free food and then going from there. But I thought that that was one of the coolest things that we did while we were hitchhiking, you know. And yeah, yeah, I just got my guides were telling me that I also started shooting up. Like I started using needles when we were in Vegas, and I forgot all about that too. I started using needles, um, meth with needles back in when I was in Vegas, and we were at the Palace Station the first time I ever did that. And I remember that, and I shared this in my other podcast episode, that I almost knocked myself out of my body um, unintentionally, sending myself back because I don't believe in death. I believe that when we die, we wake up in the real world. That's just one of my personal beliefs. So take it or leave it. 33:33 on the clock. Um, yeah. So I mean, we were just out running amok. Okay, I was in my full blown addiction. I was running from trauma. I was running from pain. And the whole entire time, I was literally re traumatizing myself and causing myself more trauma and pain. So it's not a very smart thing to do is to go on a run. Don't do it. When you end up going on a run, you're really just don't. Okay, you're running from emotions that you need to feel, you're running from healing that you need to heal. You're probably self-medicating as well, you know? So, anyways, I don't know where we met this gentleman, but he had this big brown cab over and he picked us up, and we were with him from all the way from the Midwest, all the way to Sacramento, and all the way back to Wisconsin. And well, wow, I mean, all of it, like, and all of the experiences, big trucks. So we would go to, the truck stops, and I would do cleaning jobs, and things like that to try to come up with money, and it was just very interesting, crazy time of my life where I trusted God completely, and it was like I was actually doing what I was meant to do, as messed up as that sounds. But I was literally out there doing exactly what I was meant to do, taking my light to different places, and that's what Joe was all about as well. We have a lot in common. Him and I have a lot in common. Yeah, I'll get into that later. But so we ended up in Wisconsin. We almost stayed there. We did get out with him, and we stayed with him and his old lady and their baby. And they really just wanted to help us out. I felt like they wanted to keep us. We really didn't want to be kept. So we got back on the road, and we ended up leaving and just hitchhiking all over this country. We went up and down and around through Texas, New Mexico, Arizona. We've been up through Tennessee, Kentucky, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. And Ohio was as far east as I've gotten so far. So I was kind of hoping to go. I want to go see the East Coast all the way, from my friends up in the north to my friends in the south. I totally just want to see it. I'm so excited to do that. So Joe needs to get well soon so we can do that. But anyways, I have so many, like, so many times God will bring up a memory for me, like the times where I was just very intimate with Joe, and I would do my nails down his back and just caress him and love him, and there was a lot. I loved him completely. There was no question, no doubt. There was no one else. Peter existed, but he didn't exist like that to me. You know. Um, there was a lot. And we ended up hitchhiking back from Texas. I think it was Austin, Texas, all the way back up into Northern California, which is where he is living now. Joe's living up there now. But we got off in Ripon, and the truck driver kept everything, and we literally had the clothes on our back. I mean, everything. My Yosemite Sam, my leather jacket, my purse, my makeup, everything was gone. We had nothing left. Nothing. And Joe flipped out. He flipped out. Understandably. Understandably, flipped out. Screw God. God is a joke. He doesn't have our back. He doesn't care what happens to us. And I just said, Joe, it's going to be all right. God has us. And he took his necklace and he threw it in the dirt. And then right after that, we got picked up. We got picked up by Les, and I think her name was Kathy. And I'm really sorry, Kathy, if I'm not saying your name right. But I know that the gentleman's name was Les because he was a retired sheriff. And they picked us up and took us home and let us stay at their house. I mean, who does that? To pick up two people on the side of the road and just take them home. I'm going to keep you, they let us stay there. And we did. We stayed in Tracy, California for quite a while. We lived off Casson Road. I worked for a lady named Kathleen. She was a 96-year-old open heart patient, and I was her caregiver. I took care of her. That's what I've been doing really my whole life. Is I took care of my mom my whole life since I was like 6. So I've been taking care of people my whole life. So got a job working for her. I didn't even have to try. It was just there for me. And that's how I know God. God knows. And God shows up exactly when you need him. God shows up exactly when you need him to. Not a moment too late, not a moment too soon. Just in time. Just in time. Every single damn time. Not once did God let me down when I said that he was going to show up. And he fucking showed up. So I know God's showing up for Joe right now because I have every expectation in my ears ringing that Joe is under God's protection and healing. This happened for a reason, just not sure why yet. And that's okay. Maybe it was to get Joe's attention. Maybe it's because Joe needed to change his trajectory. I don't know, but I know that he's going to make it because I was told that he's going to make it. Joe had a stroke. Sorry, it's still real hard for me to talk about because I don't have anyone to talk about. I don't have anyone to talk to about it. You know, helicopters flying around again. Sorry if you can hear it. Hopefully they get this stuff done quickly. But we were on the road together for a while. We got meals, we got food, we had everything we needed at any given time. And we had each other. So we stayed in Tracy, California for a little bit, but I was always antsy because I had a baby when I was 15, and I wanted to go home because I wanted to be with her. Yeah, and she pulled on my heartstrings a lot, you know. And so I wanted to go home, and I did. We did. We ended up flying. That was like, ooh, it's 11:11. It's 11:11 my time. We ended up flying out of Oakland and coming back, and we stayed at my mom and dad's house, and we almost got married. We started going to church. We tried to get our shit together, but neither one of us was ready to do that. So we ended up, using meth and running amok and a different, like, we hung out with different people, but we were in the motels in Riverside. We stayed at the Airport Inn. We stayed at, America Inn. We stayed at, I don't know, every single motel there along Magnolia from La Sierra to Polk, I think, if not farther down too. And then the Airport Inn, that was on the other side of town, you know. And we were doing what we had to do, you know, but neither one of us was ready to settle down and stop using and stop running amok. And so we ended up getting in trouble, and he got arrested, you know. He got arrested at a radio shack, or no, he got arrested. I'll tell you why we got arrested. But yeah. So he we went into Radio Shack, and the guy came after us with a broom, and Joe told him, "Dude, you can drop the broom, and I'm leaving, or I can hit you with the broom, and we're still gonna leave." And so we had to hit him with the broom. He hit him with the broom, you know. Anyways, so we left. And later on down the line, we ended up staying. I got a job at Del Taco, and the lady that was the general manager, we ended up staying at her pad, and she lived off of Green River Drive in a mobile home, and it was right on the railroad tracks. I remember the railroad tracks was literally outside the back door, and I mean, these trains are flying; they're not slowing down, so it was nerve wracking at first, but there were so many, it just whatever. But I remember the railroad tracks being like right there outside the bedroom, and we did some stupid shit, and we got some stupid shit back. So we were out at the motel. We were out at the casino, San Manuel, and we ended up having to walk home from there. And we walked all the way up Foothill to fucking Hamner, and walked Hamner all the way up to into Norco. And it was awful. We had really bad karma for some reason because we had it coming. And they're working outside, like I said. If you're just now tuning in, they're working on my stuff outside. So, anyways, um, I think we were crazy, but yeah, Joe and I got pulled over. Well, we ended up getting picked up, and the lady that we stayed with, we stole from her. I'm not gonna lie, we stole from her straight up. And so we had it coming. She had us pulled over at gunpoint, and yeah. So Joe and I got arrested. The cop basically took the weed that I had and just got rid of it, and let me go. Joe took the rap. Um, but what was funny about that is they dropped the charges because the lady that we legitimately stole from her, but she exaggerated on what we stole. So the charges were dropped because the detectives didn't believe her. If she would have just told the truth, which she didn't, then yeah. So those charges got dropped, but what happened was the Radio Shack dude came back to haunt us. So they let me go, and they kept Joe for an assault with a broom. And I was still running amok, unfortunately, running around, not wanting to feel. I was on a run still. And so I ended up meeting my boyfriend Daryl at the time, and I broke up with Joe. And then when I started talking to Joe again here, I started talking to Joe again in November 2024. Um, and I ended up falling in love with him again. I just feel like he's my masculine. I don't know. I just do. I just love him so much, you know. It's not it's not even an option. It's not even a question. It's not even a choice. I know I love him, you know, and I surrendered to that, and then he had a stroke, you know, and that's where we're at right now. Is I feel like I'm in the doghouse because the family doesn't know me, you know. I just and I feel like I know enough, you know. I was there when I was younger. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm entitled or anything. I just feel sad that I feel like the illegitimate like family member, you know, like they don't take me seriously. They think I'm whatever, you know. I'm going through a divorce from a narcissist. I mean, well, I'm not even really going through a divorce yet. I'm going through separation with a narcissist right now, and um, I'm trying to do all of the things right, because we have kids, and I never cheated on my. I don't know why I'm bringing this up because nobody's business, but I asked my husband to leave in June, and Joe looked for me. This is the weird part too. Joe looked for me online. Like he had been looking for me, and he didn't find me until after I left Joel, my husband. He didn't even find me until after I left him. And it was kind of like a God thing, you know, like God was like really, I feel like this is why I'm so hurt too, is because I feel like God brought us back together, you know? And it's like, why, I'm not sure why God brought us back together right before this happened. Maybe it was to, because I loved him so much. And I was able to give him as much love as he gave, and I don't know, guys. I just feel like God had a part to play in bringing him back into my life, you know? And I miss him because I went for so long without anybody calling me, anybody checking on me, nobody texts me or anything. Like, I'm not complaining, I'm just saying, like, nobody texts me, nobody, you know, I've been isolated. And, oh, they got the radio playing out there. Anyways, I've been alone. I've been isolated out here in the desert, and I feel like all I've been trying to do is heal, and then Joe comes along, and he brings his Josephness around me, and I'm just like smitten. And I was trying to take it slow. I was trying to hold back. I was trying to be, I don't know if you want to call it strong, but whatever, I am smitten. I am smitten. And he had a stroke, and he's not okay. So the stroke he had, he has some work to do, but it's healable. It's healable. He's been healing by leaps and bounds already. And I've been sending him source energy, white light energy, because I'm also a healer and I do crystal healing and all of that. So I've been doing all of that for Joe this entire time. And I welcome you all to pray and send him white light energy from source, from God, from I call God source because the source of all creation. And that way there's no confusion on who I work for. I work for the creator of all things. Everything, all the universes, all the dimensions, everything. That's the God I work for. Source. So, anyways, my dogs are hearing them work outside, so. No, no, no. No. So cute, though. Look how cute they are. There's Bella. It says, yeah, Bella and Chase and Roscoe. So, I better wrap it up, though. I'm at about an hour. Hey, enough. Shh. Zip it. Zip it. No. So, anyway, sorry guys. So I started talking to Joe on. It was very beginning of November. After my husband had already been moved out, and I didn't really know what to do, what to think. Like I just was like, okay, awesome. But he started telling me his life, and I started telling him my life, and we started recognizing that, oh my god, dude, I did the same thing. Like, oh my god, I did the same thing. We both got out of jail or prison, went to sober living, ended up running a sober living, staying at a job 5 years. We had a union job. I mean, it doesn't seem like much when you talk about it, but when you talk about it in the whole, the entirety, like, we have done a lot of things that each other has done. We're both working on each other, though. That was the part that was so important to me, was that he was working on himself. He was working on himself, and he had a relationship with God. And it was the God of his understanding. He worked the 12 steps. He understands that I live my life by those principles in AA too, like he does too, like one day at a time. He started reminding me of who I was, how to be confident, like put myself back out there, like share this story. I can't wait for him to come on, and we were meant to do this together. Like I believe that he was meant to come on here, and he wants to share his story so bad, and I'm gonna make it happen somehow. I want him to be able to share his story somehow, even if I tell it for him and he has to, whatever, transcribe it to me, and I will tell it. I don't care. I want his story told. His story touched lives for many years. He was a speaker and helped a lot of people, and he told the story about us and helped a lot of people. And I believe that we were brought back together divinely in divine timing, and it's not really for me to understand, why it happened. I just need to understand that it did and accept that it did, and then I have to relinquish control over it, and let his family do whatever it is that they need to do. I mean, I can't interfere. I'm not trying to. I'm not entitled, in any way to any of it, to Joe or anything. I just am extremely grateful for Rob, Joe's best friend, to continue to update me and, you know, even though I feel like I don't get everything and not everyone's being transparent with me and all of that, it is what it is. And I have to get over it, and I'm trying to do so. I just am so in love with him. I just keep reading our messages back and forth, over and over. Just I can't wait for him to be able to pick up his phone and text me again, and say, hey, call me, and I'll call. And even if he can't talk 100%, I don't care. That's not, I just want his presence, and I feel like those of you that know, you just know, and I am really grateful for all of you, um, for listening and for your prayers and thoughts and your positive intentions towards Joe at this time. His kidneys have come back. He did have a brain bleed, so hopefully 55 on the clock. I hopefully actually, compared to sunstroke, he's doing amazing. He's doing amazing. And it took me a while to understand exactly where he's at because of my past experience with strokes is, my grandfather. And so my grandfather really never talked a lot again after that, but he did shuffle around and he was able to drive still and live. And so, regardless, Joe has a life and I want to be a part of it. I just right now got to relinquish control over to God and his family and pray that they understand my point of view and where I'm at and who I am. And yeah, I care. I care more than most. Yeah, one thing I do know that before his stroke, Joe stopped drinking a lot. I mean, he was still drinking, but he wasn't drinking to oblivion. He had stopped doing other things. He was trying to, get his shit together a little bit, and I'm glad I was able to help him with that. I'm glad I was able to give him focus because he gave me something to focus on too, for my healing and to take care of myself. So I love you. And if this resonates with you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And give it a like and a thumbs up. And comment below and give a heart if you please pray for Joe. And I love you guys. I'll see you next time.